Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that giant robots are always cool. But you see, there's this thing that I think people don't know about Plamo. And Monk just discovered that, well, the 30 Minutes brand of Plamo has some mecha that's really good for fantasy stuff. Plamo is life, Plamo is love. Abandon the cardboard crack of card games. Abandon all other types of crack in your life, especially if it's real crack. And embrace the holiness. The absolute pristineness that is Plamo.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not trying to get you to fund my plastic crack addictions at all. I fund those myself.
Yeah. So, a new season is upon us. And of course, how could I not turn down an opportunity to cover something that's within our wheelhouse and also weeb shit? Because one, it's always fun, and two, I get to piss off the grogs. Although these days, apparently they're too busy having one game by the Arcane Library live rent-free in their heads.
Yeah, but we've been on that rant. Don't need to beat a dead horse this time around. We've got a perfectly living Campbell in front of us.
Yeah? And that doesn't even spit on us. Even better.
Indeed.
But for the next few weeks, we are going to be talking about Flux Fantasy. Now, for a bit of context, this is based on the Flux Destiny, I guess, universe, I'd say. Since it's made appearances as a webcomic on Webtoon, it's made appearances in a audiobook voiced by Todd Habercorn. It has its own wiki. It is essentially a multimedia project.
Yep.
Depicting an alternate setting that is very 90s influenced. Where destiny is something that can be manipulated. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, of course, the creator of the game, Chris Mohes, and his partner in crime, Ella Powell, has been on the show in the past. We've been on their channel twice, even if you only heard one of them.
Yeah.
Also, Chris, if you're watching, fix your damn mic.
It was very, very quiet on the audio that we saw on that second interview.
And, of course, in the interest of full disclosure, once again, we were sent a review copy of the beta. And then then when the beta updated, we got access to that.
Yep. It even has our names on it. Or at least our emails.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, that's not going to play a factor into how we assess things, because it never does. I know that one could argue, wait, you interview a lot of people, isn't it redundant whenever you say that kind of thing? Technically speaking, yes, but I still have to say it.
Sometimes I tell him it would be easier to say to announce when he hasn't interviewed somebody, but we all know that that's not how this world works. You need to tell every time. Full disclosure, I've interviewed this person, and this is a review copy I received.
Do not be mad at me for saying this over and over again. Be mad at every journalist who doesn't disclose these kind of things.
Every journalist who hides the fact that they got goodies.
Mm-hmm. This is what's known as a poison pill. Also known as one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yep.
And given my background and some of the stuff I've been involved in, some of the stuff we've been involved in, keeping a high level of professionalism and a high level of authenticity on these kind of things is vastly important.
Absolutely.
Now, I am glad that the PDF that we're going to be covering has bookmarks, because if it didn't, I would probably call up Chris and say, get some bookmarks in there, you fucking idiot.
Has bookmarks, yes. Mm-hmm. And hyperlinks.
Navigation is one of those things that will always trigger me when it's not there.
Indeed.
And
although I think I forgot to download the version that has the bookmarks.
I didn't, because I got a notification about it.
I'm okay. I don't really need to download it.
Now, with that said, what we are going to be covering tonight is three things, because of the way this thing is presented, it does mess around with how we approach things, and we did not want something as large as Planetbound ever again.
Yeah. You all already saw us roast the shit out of Jeremy and Travis.
Mm-hmm. We like you, Chris, but we're not going to cover one game over the course of an entire year.
Well, not to mention that half of what we would cover would be lore, and if anybody wants to know about the lore of Flux Fantasy, the best way to experience that is to go read Flux Destiny.
Or
that'll cover the entire universe.
There is a good amount of stuff that's on the wiki.
Yeah.
But the best way to do it is through the Flux Fantasy webcomic.
Exactly. And so, if we can, drive more traffic over there as well, because Chris definitely deserves to have the comic read,
mm-hmm.
as well as having this game exposed to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the table of contents, and keep in mind, everything we say with this has the asterisk of this is a beta.
Yeah.
There will no doubt be changes. If there's a updated version, depending on the updates, we may bring that up. It all depends on context. The three things that we're going to be covering are the introduction, how to play, and basic actions.
Yep. And the introduction is not going to be huge. We're going to be skimming over some of it and reading other parts in detail.
Yeah. So
I forget exactly where we cut everything off.
we're going to be cutting it off at the end of basic actions.
Mm-hmm. I just don't remember how far we started at, which introduction we're starting at introduction.
I think we'll start right after welcome.
Okay.
Which on the PDF is going to be page 11.
Yep. So we'll start at the welcome page or at the page after welcome?
At the page after welcome.
So at goals of the core rulebook?
No. What page are you on?
I'm on page 11.
Welcome to Flux Fantasy is what I meant, is where we'll start, and I'll leave.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here, literally and figuratively.
All good.
Okay. Welcome to Flux Fantasy, the tabletop role-playing game that's built from the ground up to give you and your friends an adventure of a lifetime. With the karmistry magic powers of the Flux Destiny universe fueling your every move, you'll be creating awesome characters and stories in no time. This guide is your ultimate resource for mastering the game. Whether you're stepping into the shoes of a game master or joining as a player, This book will set you on the path to epic quests and unforgettable stories in the Flux fantasy universe. Be ready to unleash your imagination and embark on a journey like no other. And we have here a little bit of an overview of the world of Flux Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Jump into the world of Flux Destiny, where the unique magic system of Karmistry shapes the fate of heroes and villains alike. In this alternate Earth of the 1990s, Karmistry, a powerful supernatural ability to bend the laws of the universe, granting people superhuman abilities and the power to perform incredible feats, fuels a story of hope, growth, and personal agency against a backdrop of high stakes and complex adversaries. But with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, Uncle Ben. In Flux Destiny, the awe-inspiring abilities granted by Karmistry are tempered by Payback, the universe's own system of cosmic justice. Payback ensures that the use of Karmistry isn't without its consequences, creating a world where every action can lead to significant moral dilemmas. It's a system that adds depth and complexity to the story, challenging characters and readers alike to navigate a world where choices aren't black and white, but a spectrum of gray. At its core, Flux Destiny is about characters who are as complex and relatable as they are compelling. They're not just characters, they become companions on a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and the kind of growth that only comes from facing the universe's darkest moments head on. Here, every victory is hard won, every setback a lesson learned, making each triumph feel genuinely earned. The universe of Flux Destiny is vast, inviting you to explore its depth and contribute to its ongoing story. While the lore is rich and expansive, it's the fans who bring it to life, creating their own original characters to navigate this world. It's a place where your creativity can flourish, guided by the lore, but free to explore your own paths and adventures. Immerse yourself in a narrative realm where each twist and turn is crafted with care, offering a sanctuary for those seeking a universe built on integrity, creativity, and the collective joy of its community, a place where you can truly take pride in being a part of its unfolding story. Beyond the allure of Karmistry, though, is the welcoming community that surrounds it. It's more than just a story. It's a place where you can meet folks who get just as excited about Flux Destiny and other topics like anime, video games, and graphic novels as you do. It's awesome to see friendships form over shared love for Hugo, Marco, Lucky, and their wild ride through the mainline narrative. For many, becoming a part of the world of Flux Destiny starts with hanging out with us, drawn in by the fun and warmth of this big nerdy family. Here, everyone's welcome, and it's your enthusiasm and imagination that keep making this universe richer and way more fun. In Flux Destiny, the magic of Karmistry isn't just the backdrop for adventure. It's a reflection of the power each of us holds to shape our destiny. Welcome to a universe where the stakes are real, the conflicts intense, and every journey is an invitation to explore the depths of both the world and ourselves.
Mm-hmm. You know, with those last few paragraphs, it does put into perspective some of the stuff that he was talking about with us. Specifically, him being a fan of the type of community that we're building within the temple.
Well, our communities are both very, very much alike.
Mm-hmm.
While not exactly alike in the content of what we're exploring, it's very alike in what we're trying to foster as a community atmosphere and a community bearing.
Yeah.
We want the communities to be able to unabashedly be nerdy about the things they want to be nerdy about without any sort of persecution or judgmentalism coming down on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, again, why, as everybody knows, the monastery's second moniker is the open bar of the internet, because you leave all your bullshit at the door when you go into a bar. You come into the bar to have a good time with the people who are there. And if you don't, well, then don't come into the bar. That's our only request. If you feel like you can't just gel with everybody and have a good time over the shit that you want to share your enthusiasm for, if you're going to get, preachy or otherwise proselytize to people about why X is the best thing ever and you're wrong if you think otherwise, you should go away until you can stop doing that.
Mm-hmm. And
I might be called the evangelist in the temple, but that's because I'm not evangelizing a specific viewpoint I hold. I'm evangelizing the temple.
Yeah. Also, hi there, Tom Bahat.
Hi, other dude. You can call me Zan.
Uh, but then after that, we have Flux Destiny Canon and the RPG. Flux Destiny is the parent universe of Flux Fantasy. All the settings, timelines, and major events you'll encounter are rooted in the main canon. However, to make this universe playable as a tabletop role-playing game, some adjustments to the rules have been made. Also, Tombahat, it's Xan. X-A-N.
Zan.
He is not he is not a toaster.
You know, they say she's a toaster, but she's also a dragon again, Monk.
Toasters
That she's been in her
heat.
dragon. Huh?
Toasters generate heat.
This is true. This is true.
Although, truth be told, if I was in the same call with Zen, I'd probably make the joke of say toast 5 times fast. Okay, what do you put in a toaster?
Bread.
I love when people fall for that. But anyways, while we've done our best to stick to the rules of the Flux Destiny universe to match the canon, there may be some slight differences. Game masters and players who tweak the game to fit their personal stories should keep this in mind, especially when introducing new players to the world. This is basically saying there might be some discrepancies between the way some things work in the other medias compared to the RPG. These are concessions made because this is a game. This is something that I think a lot of people should keep in mind when it comes to adapting IP. And you and I have talked about this, about how some people try and be slavish to the source material, which does no one any favors. You're basically doing the tabletop equivalent of Gus Van Sant's Psycho. You know, the one nobody likes to talk about and everybody's tried to memory hole since.
Yep.
I think that was the first time I saw a community try everything in its power to pretend something didn't exist. After that is the goals of the core rulebook. I do like that they say, while we can't cover every single detail for every game, the core rulebook provides the essential framework for you to create your own stories. So their goals aren't far removed from what we were trying to do with FF Legend. We're trying to create a sandbox for people to fill with their own stories instead of telling them what the story is going to be.
Yeah. It's a little different between ours and Chris's, obviously, because Chris's is based very much directly off of his webcomics universe. So he has a very distinct universe with very, very distinct rules that you're going to be working within. So it's a sandbox within that universe, which is good. We like it when people have a if you're making a sandbox, you either just want to make a sandbox that can be used in as many ways as possible, period, like what we've tried to do with FF Legend. Or if you have a distinct idea, a distinct universe you're working within, you make it so that sandbox rules conform to your universe as widely as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's actually fantastic. We love this. Yep. We love to see it.
Yep. So, and the how to use, which is basically covering the major sections that this thing is going to be divided into: lore, how to play, character creation, other, which is extra mechanics for things like shops, NPCs, maps, and so on. Basically an appendix. The GM guide, the cheat sheets, and extras. Extras are in-depth information on various aspects, from advanced mechanics to comprehensive lore. And at the back, a tutorial game, which is basically a one-shot that you're going to see everywhere around Free RPG Day. Or akin to some of the one-shots that we do every few weeks on the Cloister of the Dice, including tomorrow, but we'll get to that later. And I think we should read off the message from the creator of Flux Fantasy here.
Okay, you want me to do that?
I'll do it.
All right.
And Chris, sorry, but I'm not going to try and read this in your voice.
I don't think we would have to, Monk, but...
Yeah, I know, I'm just riffing. Hey, Flux Destiny fans. Art imitates life, and life imitates art. This couldn't be truer for the creation of the Flux Destiny universe. Crafting this intricate story has been a journey of mutual shaping, filled with highs, lows, and experiences that have paralleled my own. Flux Destiny began with a story demanding to be told, a universe unfolding in my mind, rich with characters, possibilities, and a unique magic system, Karmistry, that explores deep themes. Years of building Flux Destiny have shown me it could be more than just my creative output. It could be a sanctuary for others seeking depth and connection, free from the toxicity of other fictional worlds. Our fandom community has become a haven for fans looking for belonging, friendship, and shared passion. Character development into relationships are at the heart of Flux Destiny. The characters are real, evolving as we do. The vast, intricate world invites exploration of its lore, history, and cultures. At its core, Flux Destiny is about hope, empowerment, and the belief in shaping our destinies, offering a counterpoint to today's cynicism. I'll get to that in a minute. Joining the Flux Destiny fandom means valuing creativity, positivity, and collaboration. Whether discussing, creating your own stories, or enjoying the adventure, you're vital to what makes Flux Destiny so special. I'm thrilled to invite you into the Flux Destiny universe as a fellow creator and explorer. Together, let's make this more than a story. Let's make it a home for those who believe in the magic of new beginnings and the power of a well-told tale. We're excited to share this beta test version of the Flux Fantasy Core Rulebook. Your playtesting helps us discover what works and what needs tweaking. You might find inconsistencies or other issues. That's expected. Your feedback is crucial as we refine the gameplay for the final release. Our goal is to create a fun, unique gaming experience that brings friends together and stretches your storytelling wings. Your feedback will help shape Flux Fantasy into the best game it can be. Thank you for your incredible support, passion, and for being part of this journey. And as the escape artists say, go make it real. Signed, Chris Mohez, creator, Flux Destiny. The today's cynicism thing strikes a particular chord with us, I'd say.
Today's cynicism. You mean the thing we constantly, consistently, and vehemently rail out against every fucking time we show a new game, a new story, a new TTRPG, something new and nerdy, and go, fuck you guys, you're not looking, you're all ostriches with heads in the sand. Get your head out of the sand, take a look around, there is so fucking much. Yes, I know exactly what cynicism we're talking about here, and how much we fight it, Monk. In fact, on Sunday, slight spoilers for everybody who doesn't watch every podcast all this week, we're going to be doing another Hangover shit show. Again, showing that, hey, there's a bunch of good video games coming out. Excuse me, Dragon, it's the bane of Mildra's motherfucking existence. Or just fucking existence when he's being nice.
Yes.
I have baned him a lot of times. I deserve to be called as such.
Mm-hmm. Now, after this, it goes into the lore. Like I said, that is something that we're going to skip because it's not something that we can really dive too much into. But I will say this. I ended up finding about Flux Destiny in part because of a comment that was on the profile of their Twitter page, and I brought this up with Chris, that Flux Destiny and subsequently Flux Fantasy could be a game where people could make their OCs. Yes, I know a lot of OCs are cringe, but that's beyond the subject of this. It is the fact that was stated as a goal that drew my attention. And then I started looking into the way Karmistry works. And there was one anime that kept poking in the side of my head as I was going through reading how Karmistry works, reading how escape artists work, reading how ink fighters work. You want to take a guess as to what that anime was, Zan?
I think I know what it is. Go ahead, though, Monk.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Yep.
That was the big one because of the detail given to it, and it may have been an influence. I haven't really asked Chris if that was the case. I might do that later. The other one, to a certain extent, would be Hunter x Hunter and the way it uses Nen, which happens to be one of my favorite magic systems that's been used in an anime. One of these days I will go through a bunch of different shonen battle manga and not rate them on how good the story is, but how good their quote-unquote magic system is.
Their power system.
Yes.
Whatever that power system might be.
Uh.
Yeah. I also... This might be a little bit of a stretch in my brain, but I also got some feels of Scryed from it.
I could certainly see it. Although, whenever I think of Scryed, I end up thinking of how vastly different the anime and the manga are. I've seen some people say that Scryed was Sunrise's attempt to do JoJo. I disagree with that. Except for the manga. That definitely was trying to channel Araki.
Yeah.
But then we get into how to play. And the first part that it goes into is what is an RPG, and as well as the common words. The common words, there's not really any that would necessitate any deep dives for us. I do like that they have where to start as a GM versus where to start as a player.
Yeah. I would like to point out that they might have some word differences for their glossary, such as checkpoint, which you've probably heard us mention most of the time as milestones.
Actually, I think checkpoint would be closer to downtime in some of the systems we've covered.
That could be another one too. Yeah. But the reason I say milestone is because it's also a place where leveling up occurs.
Yeah. After that, we have GM tips and tricks, and I'd say the big thing to note here is in the GM's responsibility. The first one is governing karmistry laws.
Yeah, and these are very specific tips, which is why we're actually covering them. In most cases, when you have a GM section, they read mostly the same. I mean, depending on whether the game has a setting or not and exactly what type of game you're playing, but the GM section tends to boil down to, here are some tips on how you might regulate gameplay time and story flow and et cetera, et cetera. But since this is very specific tips for it being very specific to Flux Fantasy, it's good to actually go in on this one. But first, like you said, we have governing karmistry laws.
Yep.
Ultimately, it's up to you, the GM, to decide the extent of the laws in your game. The stories might provide some context for punishment, but it's your call to enforce them or not. Karmistry laws act as guides in cities and other public spaces. If player characters break karmistry laws, you can summon NKA NPC characters to arrest them or put them in timeout for their actions. Do not feel the need to enforce every law to the letter, especially when not in a large public space. And then it does mention that there's a listing of national karmistry laws in the Fortuna Karmistry Code in the extras.
Yep. And all I can hear is, "Stop right there, criminal scum!"
You violated the law! But from there it goes into karmic alignment points, or KAP. One of your big responsibilities is handing out KAP. When players make significant actions, whether positive or negative, you will assign positive or negative karma points. These might be outlined in the stories, but often it will be up to your careful listening to reward players for role-playing. There's actually a section later in How to Play that says how to play karmic alignment points for more information. And then there's a section here about determining success thresholds for basic actions. This one I'm going to skim over a lot more. But this essentially tries to tell you that there's a certain threshold to be reached. 4 thresholds are mentioned: easy, strenuous, very difficult, and basically impossible.
Yeah.
But the best thing here is that there is a tip that says passing a basic action doesn't guarantee success. A player might succeed in jumping onto boxes, but if the player hadn't inspected them properly beforehand, the boxes could be rotten and could collapse under their weight. It also gives a tip about not necessarily having to reveal a threshold, and that natural 20s should, in most cases, determine automatic success, despite the odds against them. Whereas a 20 made up of modifiers and a normal roll is up to the GM.
I like that somebody besides me called it an unnatural 20.
Yep. I think the first criticism I have here, though, is what constitutes an easy task, what constitutes a strenuous task, what constitutes a very difficult task, and what constitutes a basically impossible task. As we always say, guidance is necessary. Every game can be someone's first. And we always want to see the upper and lower ranges so we know where we're working and have a general idea of which constitutes what. So if you're going to add to this section for the main book, and I certainly hope you do, Chris, you and Ella, you would give some, like 2 or 3 examples that are the lower and upper bound for each of these thresholds. That way, a GM gets a rough idea of what which threshold should be what, and knows when to use it. Especially newer GMs, they'll definitely appreciate the guidance. Then there's the section using karma to help. Players using karma to boost their basic action rolls should get a lowered threshold. For example, if a player is to get past a locked door with a threshold of 13, but uses Karmistry to pick the lock, the threshold should drop to 10. However, if a basic action already requires the use of karma, the threshold can stay the same. As the GM, use your best judgment to make these decisions.
Yeah, and then we have determining the use of karma outside of combat. Karma isn't just for combat, you can use it outside of fights too. Here's how it works. Karma outside of combat functions similarly to how it does in battles. You can use karma points to perform basic actions, which require rolling a dice with added talent modifiers. Small uses of karma get swept into the undertow of the great machine and don't incur payback. However, more significant uses will deplete your karma pool and build up payback. Combos or combined powers spread the KP cost among all participating players. The initiator uses the full karma amount, while the assisting player uses only half their combo KP. So then we have a karma use charge. So insignificant, 0 KP. These tiny uses of karma are easily erased, like the blink and you miss it moments. And it goes further on to simple use, 5 to 10 KP. These actions require a bit more effort and are often low-level attacks or simple tasks. Then significant use, which is 10 to 20 KP. These involve more significant uses of karma, like advanced attacks or manipulating large objects. Then major use, 30 to 50 KP. This is a huge amount of karma. Such uses will trigger an immediate payback roll. And then we have sacrificial use. These uses typically spell death for the user. This kind of karma usage will almost always result in a payback titan or massive malfunction and will trigger a payback roll. Each of these has at least 2 examples.
And this is the type of examples that I'm talking about.
Yes.
This right here is fantastic. If you can have this for the thresholds from earlier, that would be perfect. That would be ideal. And some of my favorites here amongst the things like the major and sacrificial uses, controlling other people under major use is a good one, I think. Or changing atoms for sacrificial use. I love that.
Yep. And
there's also a tip at the end of it for you there, Mike.
Oh yeah. Saying, remember, each use of karma equals the same amount of payback growth. Check out the payback section to understand the consequences of payback and how it can impact your game.
So there's this this is one of our favorite things to see: risk versus reward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm just these examples are so it's such a clean cut. Hey, yeah, okay, I understand what this does and how it does it and when I should be using this amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's and that's why I like that the pages with the difficulty thresholds and these karma uses are literally one after the other. So it's a jarring juxtaposition to know that one has very detailed examples that give you the understanding of the range of use, and the other one does not.
But after that, we have enhancing the game, which covers three things: playing as enemies, and a bit of advice on how to enhance that. Asking players questions. Sometimes players might need a little nudge to get into the groove. That's very much the case. And break limits. Sure, rules are important, but every now and then it's okay to bend them for the sake of good storytelling. Break limits is basically rule 0. There will always be some variation of rule 0 in a lot of books, but it boils down to, if a given rule is getting in the way of the entertainment, modify the rule or toss it out. The rules are there to foster entertainment.
Yeah. As we have said, this is meant to be fun, for one. I have a feeling that the Ivory Tower retirement home would disagree for some reason, but you know,
I think a few of them are trying to push the idea of the tyranny of fun.
Yeah,
that was the phrase I was hearing get bandied about, and I remember cringing when I was seeing videos on the matter.
Yeah, I think of them as either the fun police or the anti-fun patrol.
Oh.
But with all of that said, we get to the how to play moving through stories section for GMs only.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically tells you, first of all, what type of texts, what the text notations and colors mean,
mm-hmm.
and also how a story is structured. What's really important here, though, I think to note, is the losing and the resurrection and the finality of death sections.
Mm-hmm.
So under losing, it says, it happens. Sometimes your players will get knocked out or killed, and the game takes a dark turn. As GM, you decide whether to restart at a checkpoint or start fresh with new characters. If only one player dies, they should create a new character to rejoin the story. And then on resurrection and the finality of death. In Flux Destiny, death is final. No karma tree can change that. Once someone's time is up, their connection to the universe's gears is too delicate to mess with. This rule keeps the story real and grounded, making every character's life and death count. Trying to cheat death with karmistry? Forget about it. It's off limits, maintaining a clear line between the living world and whatever comes next. And there's a note that says, any attempt to use karmistry to resurrect a dead character will result in catastrophic and potentially fatal playback.
Yeah. And add that to the reasons why I kept thinking of Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah. We all know that in many games with high levels of fantasy, there are ways for magic to, or whatever power, to bring back the dead. It's a thing. It really depends on what type of fantasy you're trying to foster. And while using karma to mess with the underpinning of the universe in order to make a magic system is actually quite fantastic. It's very fantasy. The fact that only so much karma can be messed with before karma comes back and bites you is also really interesting. And the fact that this means that once the ultimate karma has come home to roost, the karma of death itself, there's no retreat. It resolves. And I like that. It means that there's real, there's going to be real meaning to doing something that ends in your death.
Oh yeah.
Like an action, our favorite mechanic in Heavens and Heresies, raising the death flag. I'm sure that there are ways in this game that you could arrange for if somebody's about to go down, out, and die, they can just throw a suicidal amount of karma into it and be like, well, if I'm going to go out, I ain't going to go out with a whimper. It's going to be an all-encompassing bang.
Mm-hmm. But then we have playing as a group, which the three pillars of that are suspension of disbelief, which is self-explanatory, a house divided, dealing with cases where you have those clashes, and playing with a GM. The remember part here is something I do want to highlight. The GM is there to guide the story, not be an adversary. Work together, respect their decisions, and most importantly, have a blast exploring the world of Flux Fantasy. Some people very easily forget this, especially when I hear them bitching about how encounters are being too easy. Gygax's players learned the hard way to not broach that particular question.
Because Gygax would make it harder.
And that's how we get Tomb of Horrors. Which is
Tomb of Horrors was Gygax going, it's not hard enough? Fuck you. Here it is. Hard enough. Eat shit.
Mm-hmm.
Even though from everything I've ever heard, Gygax was one of the nicest men.
We don't know if he said eat shit, but he definitely did it as a response to his testers saying that the campaigns were getting too easy.
Yeah.
I liken it to trying to say to Frank Zappa that the instrumentation is getting a little bit too easy. That's how you get the black page. Professional drummers nowadays struggle with that thing.
Yeah.
And if you read the sheet music for the black page, you know that that thing is evil.
Yeah. I think it's also good, well, we won't read it, to highlight that A House Divided is a section specifically meant to help address those times when one player wants to do something different than everybody else, or when even a couple of players might want to do something different from the other players as part of a plan of action. And it's a good amount of advice to say, hey, in those situations, it might be best to, compromise, or, if all else fails, you can go to a vote, like just a straight up vote, and then be like, okay, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna argue about it anymore because it's only making it unfun for everybody. The vote's been gassed. We'll talk about it after the session's over to see if there's something else we could have done.
It's also a good way to filter out that guy.
I like to think... No, I can't say that. That guy will always exist. And that guy generally plagues inexperienced people. Because guys like you and I, that guy generally doesn't get to sit at our table anymore. You can sniff him out from a quarter mile.
Sometimes literally.
Him. Don't remind me. Please don't remind me. No, I know. One of the times I had to run a public game at a local game store. That guy was this gangly, skinny, just hair ratty and knotted and greasy, and you could see the sheen of oil on his skin. I was like, dude, you are sitting on the other end of the table from literally everybody else. Because I couldn't say no because he was a paying customer at the game store.
Somebody clip that, please.
I was not allowed to say no to him because he was a paying customer, which really sucked. I later talked to the owner of that store and went, that guy cannot play with us anymore. He's like, why not? I'm like, do you see him? Do you smell him? Are you not paying attention? He's like, but he pays money. He pays at least $300 a month into this place. I'm like, and that's fine. And he can continue to do so. I will not run games if he's here. And it turned out that my running games was more liked than that guy. So
Yeah. But after that, we have action and dice, which talks about basic actions, and and then their implementation. Follow that is overview and guidelines. Dice mechanism is D20. After the threshold is determined by the GM, which we've already covered thresholds. Then the talent modifiers. And then we have rolling a natural 20, which is a critical success. Though, once again, it maintains that a critical success does not mean an automatic success.
Yeah. Smashing success, though not necessarily a win in every situation.
Mm-hmm. Then rolling a natural 1, which is a critical failure. But it doesn't say automatic failure.
Yeah, the flop could spell trouble for you or your team. The GM gets to decide just how bad the fallout is.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives wiggle room and a bit of if the GM wants to, a way to implement their own fail forward.
And then we have an example of GM given basic actions, player-based decisions, and it's specifically showing example choices that can be done. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different examples of this situation setup, and different ways that it can be tackled. I like this. I like this a lot.
Yeah. Once again, fantastic examples. But going back to the initial issue, if we don't know how to properly assign thresholds, none of this extra context for how you're resolving the action is going to be implemented well, because you don't know how you're supposed to assign the threshold.
Mm-hmm. After that, we have using Karmastry to help with basic actions. In Flux Fantasy, players can tap into their karma pool to assist with basic actions, and sometimes they will need to use their abilities to complete the action. When this happens, the threshold for that action might go down, depending on the difficulty and initial threshold. For example, if a player wants to get past a locked door with a threshold of 13, but uses Karmastry to pick the lock, the threshold should be lowered to 10. However, if a basic action is already based on karma usage, the threshold will remain the same. Then we have tips and tricks. Remember, using Karmastry to complete basic actions taps into your character's karma pool. The GM will tell you how much karma an action requires. Check out how to play the karma pool for more info.
And then it has a section specifically about player versus player contested roles.
Mm-hmm.
Which, first of all, has a really nice note about GMs should handle these interactions carefully, encouraging players to act in character rather than as themselves. And then if things get too heated, the GM can shut down the interaction and call for a vote to decide the next move. Hey, I feel like I'm having a case of the craziest Dijon mustard, Monk. It's almost like I said these words myself.
But after that, there is the supplies and character sheet. I do like that they have it as a checklist, almost akin to the checklist that you'd get from a school. Then, filling out the character sheet. I'm guessing a later version of this will have like a diagram for each part on the sheet.
I imagine as such. I do have to say that this doesn't require a bevy of dice. It's only a D20, a D10, and a D4.
Mm-hmm.
And a timer. They actually have a timer. Apparently there are timed mechanics in this game.
Yeah. And then we have karmic alignment points. And I'll let you take this.
All right. Cap, you are your decisions. In the world of Flux Fantasy, every action has its repercussions, and the balance of karma is crucial. The Great Machine needs both positive and negative karma to function properly. Your choices shape the world around you, bringing about either rewards or challenges based on the karmic alignment points, or cap, you accumulate. Cap are awarded by the GM at their sole discretion. There are bonuses. When you hit a certain threshold of positive or negative cap, you get some sweet bonuses. These are designed to reflect your alignment and impact on the world. Check out the detailed rewards in the table, and I'll be reading that over here soon. Cap accumulates and isn't on a sliding scale. Both positive and negative karma can be gained, and both bonuses can be achieved, reflecting a world where being morally gray isn't only achievable, but possible. There is an extra bonus for having only positive or only negative cap, though. Now, that means that this actually is a system many people probably know and love from a series of games that unfortunately got shafted at the very end. Mass Effect. You could get Max Paragon and Max Renegade in every game.
Mm-hmm.
One did not cancel the other. But the bonuses for positive karma, I'm actually going to start at the low point and go to the high point rather than starting at the high point. It just makes more sense that way. When you have 0 to 5 KAP, you have no bonus. When you have 6 to 9 positive karma points, you get the title of local helper, and the bonus is during a roll, trade any talent modifier for a talent modifier that's to either side of it. For example, aura is between agility and technique, so an aura modifier can be swapped for technique or agility. This can be done 4 times before reaching another checkpoint. Mm-hmm. At 10 to 14 positive karma points, you get the title Positive Force. The bonus is during a roll, trade any talent modifier for any other talent modifier 4 times before reaching another checkpoint. So instead of talent modifiers next to each other, it's any other talent modifier. And then at 15 points, they get the title Hero of Light. And the description says this tier is only achievable if the player only has positive KAP. And the bonus is share a Med Plus kit with your entire party once per battle. Percentages still apply. Over on the negative side, seems like this is probably my area. At 0 to 5 points, no bonus. At 5 to 9, or 6 to 9, negative karma points, you get the name Local Menace. Trade the range and damage of your basic attack with another player 2 times in battle. Okay. At 10 to 14 points, you get the title Negative Might. Trade the range and damage of your signature move with another player 2 times per battle. That's pretty nice. And at 15 points, you get the title Bringer of Chaos, which of course means that they are directly involved with me at that point. The description also says it's only achievable if the player has only negative KAP, and the bonus is you just get to move twice during a combat turn. That's straight up. And those bonuses are cumulative, so you get all of those bonuses at some point.
Mm-hmm. And Mario's saying 12 years is not enough for him to not be pissed at how bad ME3's ending was. We covered that in Geek Watch a few years ago, where we talked about not only was that thing bad, but it also killed off the Your Choices Matter narrative that was used by a lot of games as a selling point. Because you notice you haven't really heard a lot of games use that phrase ever since.
Yep.
But then we have ways to earn KAP. And it does ultimately say that the GM is responsible, but we have examples of KAP earning events, a handful of positive and a handful of negative. Oh. And then a tip saying, this isn't an excuse for players to be unkind to each other or cause trouble unnecessarily. A GM will give KAP based on what they deem a good use of positive or negative karma. Good, this is made clear. Negative karma must benefit the great machine in some way. Negative karma may have effects in the real world, like being banned from shops and locations. Keep it confined to the narrative. Characters and players are different. Also, if playing a longer game, the GM is encouraged to elongate the number of KAP needed to reach the next bonus. And then we have Karma Depression Zones. In some places, there will be a clearly marked Karma Depression Zone where all the positive or negative karma in a location has been used up. For example, a Negative Depression Zone, that is, all the negative karma will have no positive karma. This means bonuses earned through KAP can't be used. The same would be true in a Positive Depression Zone for those who have negative KAP bonuses. These areas will be clearly marked before entering into them.
A place where only one type of karma exists, or maybe neither type?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that there could be a total karma depression zone. And even if that wasn't intended when Chris first thought of this stuff, now I've put it in everybody's mind. You're welcome, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have the karma pool, and I'll let you take that point.
Okay. All right, listen up. We're diving into what makes Flux Fantasy truly unique, the Karma Pool. This isn't just another game mechanic, this is the heart of your character's power. You'll see this concept pop up in other sections, so pay close attention. In Flux Fantasy, every character starts with a base Karma Pool determined by their chosen Karma specialty. Think of the Karma Pool as your battery for performing all of those jaw-dropping Karma-fueled abilities. But remember, it's not endless. You'll need to manage it wisely to balance your strengths and vulnerabilities. Then it has a section here called The Powers and Perils of the Karma Pool. Strategic use. Be smart about when you dip into your Karma Pool. Sure, unleashing a massive attack might tip the scales in your favor, but drain your Karma Pool too much and you might find yourself vulnerable to enemy counterattacks. Recovery and replenishment. You can't just spam your best moves without consequences. The Karma Pool recovers over time through checkpoints or by using specific actions and items. Meditating, using a Med Plus kit, or tapping into a recovery ability can refill your Karma Pool, but each choice comes with its own risks and rewards. Then exhaustion risks. Go too hard and you could end up in serious trouble. An empty Karma Pool means you're wide open to payback effects or enemy attacks. It's a high-stakes game and you'll need to play wisely. With a tips and tricks here, remember using karma, whether in or out of combat, always risks payback. For more details on how karma works in battle, check out Character Creation Powers. We will not be getting to that today.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we won't be getting to that for quite some time. And there's karma outside of combat. Karma isn't just for throwing punches. Outside of combat, karma can be used to perform basic actions, often involving rolling a dice with added talent modifiers. That's rolling a die, singular. Minor uses of karma are swept into the undertow of the Great Machine and don't incur payback, but bigger actions will deplete your karma pool and build up payback. When you and your buddies team up for combo moves or combined powers, the karma cost is spread among all involved. The amount of karma used and the growth of payback is ultimately up to the GM. And it has karma in combat. Your power profile outlines how karma is used in combat. It's your go-to for attacking and defending with karma. Each power has a specific karma cost, detailed in the powers section of the character creator. As you level up and improve your abilities, the karma cost will increase. Makes sense. More power, more karma.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And once again, you and I love having all roads lead to Rome in design.
Yep.
But then we have karma-dependent actions.
Oh, we have karma and payback first up at the top right of that page.
Yeah, technically, so I'll get to that first. Every use of karma contributes to payback growth. For more on payback and its consequences, see lore payback. Each action, no matter how small, can tip the scales, so use your karma wisely and keep the balance in your favor. By mastering your karma pool and understanding its limits, you navigate the world of Flux Fantasy with finesse, turning every encounter into an opportunity to shine. So gear up, plan your moves, and make every karma point count. Then karma-dependent actions. Using karma doesn't stop with attacks and defenses. It extends to karmistry, ink fighting, and utilizing karma tech. Here's how each plays a role. Karmistry. This mystical art lets escape artists and clockbots manipulate karma to create spectacular effects, from healing allies to conjuring barriers. Karmistry requires precise control and management of your karma pool. And ink fighting. Your karma-infused tattoos aren't just for show. They grant you unique abilities, and every move you make in ink fighting taps into your karma pool. The stronger the attack, the more karma it consumes. Then using karma tech. Karma tech gadgets and gear give you an edge, but they draw from your karma pool too. Whether attacking a security system or deploying a karma-powered drone, you'll need to keep an eye on your karma levels. And
And then it has a nice little illustration of someone creating what is shaped as a paper airplane, completely out of karma.
mhm.
But it says small karmistry use doesn't incur payback.
Small karmistry use, I think would be akin to
Cantrips.
cantrips or level 0 spells, depending on the game you're referring to.
Things like Druidcraft from the world's most litigious game that lets
Mhm.
you, recolor shit or boil 1 cubic meter of water.
Pretty much. Or
Small stuff.
some of the early free access spells in Anima.
Yeah.
I say early because even free access spells get ridiculous once you get closer to 100.
Yes.
But then we have Payback.
What goes around comes around. In Flux fantasy, every action carries weight, echoing the universe's intricate balance of cause and effect. This is where the true essence of karmistry comes into play. Each character wields karma in their own unique way, and with great power comes the inevitable payback. For our daring escape artists, the excessive use of karmistry can trigger the ominous payback. Special agents, ink fighters, and clockbots face the same threat when they push their karma pools to the limit. It's a stark reminder, with sweet powers comes some sickening payback. As players draw from their karma pool, the scales tip and payback levels rise in direct proportion. Every point of karma used pushes the balance, inching closer to potential disaster. In essence, karma is a dance of risk and reward. Clever management of the karma pool and abilities can lead to spectacular victories, but every action could tip the balance towards dire consequences. Balancing power and consequences. The allure of powerful karma abilities is always tempting, but every devastating attack carries the threat of payback. Players must weigh the immediate gains against potential backlash. Payback manifestations. Payback isn't just a slap on the wrist. It can range from minor misfortunes to the emergence of payback phantoms, or even catastrophic events that change the tide of battle. The severity often matches the power of the karmistry used. Mitigation strategies. There are ways to dodge the full brunt of payback. Characters might use artifacts, coordinate cooldown times, or practice disciplined restraint. These tactics can reduce the risk or severity of payback, but they often come with trade-offs like taking up valuable inventory space or limiting offensive capabilities. Then we have the payback system. Navigating the delicate balance between using your karma pool and avoiding the wrath of payback is no easy feat. It's a game of strategy, daring, and sometimes sheer luck. For every player, the ultimate goal is to harness the power of karma without tipping the scales too far and triggering payback. Here's how to keep that balance in check. Threshold reached. On your character sheet, you'll find a chart tracking your karma pool alongside payback levels. Each time you draw from your karma pool, your payback level rises by the same amount of payback points. When you hit 50 payback points, the great machine starts to wobble, and the threat of payback becomes real. Consequences loom, ready to pounce and restore balance. At this point, you can attempt a resistance roll to keep payback at bay, but beware, once you hit this threshold, every karma use costs an extra 2 karma points, making your payback level rise even faster.
Mm-hmm. This relationship between karma and payback, there's one thing I'm reminded of from Exalted. And one particular type of Exalted because of what they can do. The Sidereals. And how they can use the constellations to manipulate fate. The problem is, messing around with fate tends to piss off the pattern spiders.
Ah, the pattern spiders.
Because, well, the pattern spiders have been working constantly on the Loom of Fate since creation began. And they don't really like people besides them messing around with it. Mess around with it too much and they will find your thread and bite into it.
Which is basically the same as Atropos cutting your thread shorter after it's already been measured.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know who Atropos is, study some Greek legend, look up the Moira.
Yep. But,
you know what it reminds me of, Monk?
Shoot.
Tenra Bansho, Kiai Karma Taxes.
That is also the case.
I mean, it's even the same fucking name. But, like, Remember, you got to make sure to very carefully not use too much ki when you're doing stuff until you can resolve one of your karmas to get rid of the actual karma points.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful.
Yeah, be very, very careful.
Yep.
But after that, we have large use of karma pool at once. While payback levels can slowly creep up, sometimes a single massive burst of karma can trigger immediate consequences. Using 30 or more KPs of your karma pool at once, get ready for an instant resistance roll regardless of your current payback level. In either case, players must alert the GM immediately. Flux Fantasy runs on an honor system, and ensuring fair play is crucial to maintaining integrity of gameplay. Remember, in Flux Fantasy, the scales of karma are always in motion. Stay sharp, make smart choices, and keep those payback levels in check to avoid a cosmic smackdown. And then we have evading payback with the resistance roll. When the resistance roll is triggered, it's like the universe hits pause and all eyes are on you. It's a showdown between the player and payback itself. No matter where you are in the game, time stops and this pivotal moment unfolds. The goal? Roll to resist the oncoming payback and keep it from wreaking havoc. Then you roll the dice, you're adding your willpower modifier. This is a contested roll. If you succeed, congrats! You've managed to keep payback at bay for now. The game continues as usual, but keep in mind, if your payback level's at 50 PvP or higher, each subsequent use of karma will automatically trigger another resistance roll against the GM. GM's note, the GM will track how many resistance rolls each player makes. After the first roll, while you're over 50 payback points, the GM adds an additional d20 each time, taking the highest roll. This caps at 3 extra rolls. Reduce your payback level below 50 before your next roll to reset this counter. Then, failure. If you lose the roll, brace yourself. Payback triggers dangerous consequences that can harm you and those around you. The severity depends on your accumulated payback points. Check the charts below for details, with the exception. If your payback level ever hits 100, there's no roll. The consequences burst forth unchecked, unleashing chaos.
Oh, hey, somebody get to 100 right now. I need to be there. Just do it. I'll be there.
I think if you hit 100, you will end up getting to the finding out part of FAFO.
The finding out part, and it's at my hands, everybody. Mm-hmm. You will quickly come to finding out with Zan as your host.
Yeah. But then we have obviously resisting payback is a high stakes gamble. Make every roll count, and remember, the universe is always watching. And then we have payback triggered. This is a key bookmark for GMs, expect to refer to it often. When a player triggers payback, the GM must immediately enact the consequences. These consequences depend on how much payback the players accumulated and their karma specialty. Use the charts below to determine the next steps. There is a side note saying, if payback spawns an enemy outside of combat, it triggers an immediate combat initiation. If it happens during combat, the new enemy takes a turn right away before the round continues as normal. In the next round, the enemy joins in the order it appeared. And we have examples. Actually, I think I will go into this because it is going to tie into some of the archetypes we get into later in this series.
Yeah.
So, large use of the large use of karma and the accrued payback points for each archetype are pretty consistent. You have the medium payback, which is 30 to 70 KP, and then 70 to 100 KP.
And that's for large uses of karma in a single turn.
Mm-hmm.
Or in a single usage,
and
basically.
Accrued payback points, the thresholds are 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 90, and 100. So, for escape artists, using 30 to 70 KP, lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. 70 to 100, refer to the chart below. Accrued payback points, 50 to 60, small payback. Lose a turn in combat and create a small payback phantom. 60 to 70, payback malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and create a medium payback phantom. So, 70 to 90, major payback. Lose 2 turns and create a large payback phantom. 100, create a payback phantom and lose 15 HP.
That's not a payback phantom, that's a payback titan.
Sorry, Titan. I don't know why I read it as phantom.
Repetitiveness, it's the same as the toast joke you made earlier.
Then with Ink Fighters, a large use of karma, 30 to 70, medium sigil malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. 70 to 100, refer to the chart below. 50 to 60, small sigil malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and 5 HP. 60 to 70 is medium sigil malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. 70 to 90 is major sigil malfunction. Sigil comes to life as an enemy against its owner and others. Medium sigil enemy. Lose 2 turns in combat. Ouch. Then 100, catastrophic sigil malfunction. Sigil becomes an extra large enemy. Lose 3 turns in combat.
Jesus.
Then special agents. The large use of karma is pretty much the same as the others. For medium, lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. For the bigger one, refer to the chart below. So then we have at 50 to 60, small malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and 5 HP. At 60 to 70, lose medium malfunction. Lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. At 70 to 90, major malfunction. Lose 2 turns in combat and 12 HP. And at 100, catastrophic malfunction. Lose 4 turns in combat and 30 HP.
That basically assures that you die.
See, then clock bots. For large use of karma, 30 to 70, medium payback, lose a turn in combat and 7 HP. And same for, and then 70 to 100, refer to the chart below. And for accrued payback points, for 50 to 60, small payback, lose a turn in combat and 5 HP. For 60 to 70, lose a turn in combat and create a small payback phantom. 70 to 90, lose 2 turns and create a medium payback phantom. 100, create a payback titan and lose 15 HP. Triggering payback is a game changer. Stay vigilant, manage your karma wisely, and brace for the unexpected when payback strikes. And in a later update, I do hope that this whole thing is unified into like a one-page chart.
It would be nice to have a cheat sheet for it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a... Oh, I was thinking of something earlier and I lost it. Shit.
Yes. But then we have avoiding payback, and I'll let you take that.
No. Dodging the cosmic slap of payback takes some skill and strategy. You've got a few tricks up your sleeve to sidestep this karmic kickback, but timing is everything. To keep payback at bay, you need to act before you hit that critical threshold. Here are some savvy moves to help reduce your payback levels. Use of items. Certain artifacts and consumables can help dissipate your accumulated karma load. Keep an eye out for these lifesavers in your adventure. Cooldowns. Take a breather. Both in and out of combat, you can use cooldown periods to let your payback level settle. Checkpoints. These are your sanctuary. Pardon me. Carbonation. Reaching a checkpoint often resets your karma pool, giving you a fresh start and clearing out that dangerous buildup. There's also an optional mechanic. When your Taurus, it's called Taurus indicating danger. The Tauruses, I believe, are from the
Taurus is that you saw that ring thing that Hugo has in some of the art.
Yeah.
That is a Taurus. It's a key component for escape artists.
Yeah, and it's a piece of karma tech, technically.
Mm-hmm.
When your Taurus starts glowing red, it's a sign that you're teetering on the edge. This visual cue isn't just for show. A glowing red Taurus means your stealth checks are out the window. Consider yourself lit up like a beacon. This applies to Tauruses inside equipment and clock bots, too. So if you're trying to sneak around with a glowing Taurus, you're in for a world of trouble.
Mm-hmm. See, and then we have checkpoints, which is more or less what we talked about before.
Yeah.
The four things that the The four things that can happen during checkpoints is leveling up, refilling karma pools, payback cooldown, and healing up. I am glad that we have something of a level up system, because given the vast breadth of possibilities with this system, you could have an analysis paralysis problem like you have in a lot of superhero games. In fact, when it comes to the why not just use a superhero game for if you want to run a Toku campaign question that's come up over the years, I've always argued that creates its own problems, because most superhero games are going to have a wide net that they're casting, especially when it comes to power systems that can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's not to say I can't do them or something like that, but I'm just acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of moving parts, and it is a higher floor, which is why guidance is such a big deal in those situations. But here, because there's a level up set up, there's structure to build around so that people have a foundation before they go off the beaten path like they inevitably will. But
yeah.
Then we have Karma Pool Recovery. Basically goes right up to its limit. Or you can skip it to perform cooldown twice. It also notes, for ink fighters, remember that you'll need to use one syringe to replenish your karma. Sometimes you'll luck out and find checkpoints near tattoo shops where you can refuel your karma pool for free. This action can only be performed once. Then cooldown. Just like during battle, you can lower your payback levels at a checkpoint. To perform a cooldown, roll d20 and add your willpower modifier. The resulting number is the amount of payback reduced. Remember, payback can't drop below 0. This action can only be performed once unless you choose to give up karma pool recovery or hit point recovery to roll for cooldown dice. And with hit point recovery, when you hit a checkpoint, it's the golden opportunity to recover lost HP. HP is crucial. If it drops to 0, your character might be knocking on death's door. Check out the Destiny Saves section for the gritty details. Outside of these magical rest stops, you'll need to rely on Med Plus kits to get your hit points back up. But at checkpoints, there's no cap on recovery. Your healing is only limited by the luck of your roll. To heal at checkpoint, roll a d10, that's a 10-sided dice, and add your function modifier. The result is the amount of HP you'll recover. Unless you've got special upgrades, you'll be sticking with that d10 for HP regen. This action can only be performed once per checkpoint. And there's a tip. Don't forget to level up at each checkpoint. That's your ticket to becoming even more badass.
Yep.
And let me see some here.
Oh, I remembered what I was going to say, Monk.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what the payback phantoms remind me of?
Shoot.
Certain results of paradox in Mage.
Yeah, I could see it.
Of course, in Mage, there are ways to very easily build a character that doesn't generate paradox anymore, but has near infinite quintessence, and thus reality is Bork.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we have reached the end of our first section here in Flux Fantasy.
Well, So we're not. So it's going to be a bit before we get into combat, I believe.
Yes, How to Play Combat is our second to last episode, Monk.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is very solid, and I really like the idea. It's very clear that it is flavored entirely by the Flux Destiny universe, which is fantastic. It's a good universe. I'm definitely encouraging people to go read it. Is this a shameless plug for our friend Chris? Yes, it is. But how can you shame that which has none?
Mm-hmm.
My only criticism is the one section that doesn't have examples, because everything else has examples, but the threshold determination system does not, which is actually rather jarring. if it had examples, I have nothing to criticize.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping Chris takes that to heart, because it's very clear that there are examples for all the other mechanics. Having examples for what determines how a threshold is decided only seems natural. Hopefully, you're listening in, Chris. I know that you said you had respectfully entered the temple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've just been kind of zoning out and kind of fanboying or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, and now normally I would say we will be covering character creation next week. However, that's not exactly going to be the case, since Zan is going to be moving states over the course of next week and a little bit of the week after, give or take a few days.
Yep.
So
we're giving myself the maximum amount of margin of error.
Yeah. Now, if it ends up being less than that maximum, then we'll improvise as needed. But next week is September 6th, which also happens to be the day that Sage starts, and thus the demo for FF Legend goes public.
Live. Fucking goes live. Mm-hmm. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. I'm sitting respectively in the shadows of an archway, hiding under my hood.
Well, you know, Chris, you didn't have to hide. We are not hunting you.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, that is my only criticism.
He's wearing the hood because he can't handle a northern winter.
He's wearing the hood because he's shorter than us and doesn't want to look too small, right?
But
no, but yeah, really, my only criticism is examples for threshold determination. If you have that in there, oh, okay, Chris. Influencing the talk is the least of your worries. We actually like having conversations with the developers of games. We've had them both in the chats on some of our reviews, and of course, in DMs and VCs with developers directly that after reviews. I still think of the times we got timestamp detailed reports from Brother Trevor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really my only criticism. You have examples for everything else. Examples for threshold determination would make this beginning section perfect. It would make it perfect. I do mean that. Mm-hmm. Based on what I'm seeing right now alone, if I'm using Monk's system, you're definitely on strongly recommended right now.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, obviously we haven't reviewed everything, so mileage may vary.
Oh yeah. And obviously, if we go through every single mechanic, we'd be here for months. I mean, we're already gonna be here for months, but that's beside the point. But the point is that there is a lot of detail. When you do an updated version, the only thing I'd change is expanding the bookmarks, because right now they are primarily just the chapter headings. And given how dense the individual chapters are, I think having some expanding bookmarks is warranted. It's what I do for a lot of stuff where I've had to put in bookmarks manually. And I am well aware that it's a tedious prospect, but consider it like ripping off a Band-Aid. A little bit of pain, and then you're gonna be feeling better.
A little bit of pain.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. Man, I want to see our PDF with Matt and Nami and make sure that they put in enough bookmarks and nested bookmarks.
Well, yeah, because if there isn't bookmarks in it, then I'm the one who's going to get crucified.
Yep, hoist by your own petard.
But it's like you said, the only real thing was the examples for difficulty thresholds. There's a few more things we could have gone into, but we didn't want to get too much into the weeds. In 2 weeks, we will cover character creation, but next week will be an impromptu one-shot. Brother Neff and I are going to be talking about the starter set for City of Mist.
Nice.
And Amit Moshe is a good guy. I probably would have him on more often, but he's been really swamped lately, especially since he just launched to the public Tokyo Otherscape, the cyber fantasy version of the Mist engine, as it's been called. Originally, it was called City of Mist Reloaded. Then it got changed to the Mist engine. And in addition, he released a fantasy version called Legend in the Mist. All three using the same relative system. I wanted to cover City of Mist because it's tapping into one particular genre we haven't talked about enough, and that is what I like to call the modern mythos. Modern mythos, and if you were watching television in the 90s, you probably saw a big chunk of this, is a catch-all term for shows that had this idea of the mythological parts existing in the real world still. You know, all the fairy tales that you may have been told are real and exist in the modern world, and usually this involves an urban setting. I am counting the entirety of the Buffyverse as a prominent example of this. If I have to use a more recent example, Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
City of Mist is doing the modern mythos concept a bit more literally. And yes, the Dresden Files also counts for this kind of thing.
Dresden Files are great.
And right as I say that, Dragon Pulse is like, "Oh, you almost had it. You got to be quicker than that." But
this is the reason I post our announcements to the Lightning Clan server before even putting them up on Twitter these days. Just to get ahead of the fucking monk. Trying to take my job!
He took your job!
He took your job!
But that being said, tomorrow, because it is the last week of August, that means our requisite one-shot rule comes along. We will be not doing SMG Robotech. Instead, Three Claw will be coming in to do a one-shot of his game 6083, which I can best describe as a military space opera that feels like it came right out of the early 80s. I did a review of 6083 a while back, and I've interviewed the dev. Also, 6083's rule set is free. Once again, you can't argue with free.
Yep.
But, of course, Sunday will not be Geek Watch. We'll be doing the Hangover Shit Show, covering all the stuff that happened at Gamescom and some of the stuff afterwards.
Including the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, because Nintendo decided to do 2 Direct shows.
Just combined as one,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I also found out about the Anime Gaming Festival, so fuck me.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to mention that one. I thought we already had enough work.
You didn't. I ended up finding out about it by accident.
I know I didn't. That's why I said I didn't want to mention that one.
Yeah. Fortunately, this isn't as bad as what we dealt with a few months ago. You know, where there were like 6 different showcases all in the span of a week.
Yeah. I remember that.
So, once again, anyone telling me that that game development is doomed in the year of our Lord 2024 or something is talking out of their ass. But remember, there is the virgin cynicism, and then there is the Chad believe in humanity enjoyer.
Indeed.
But with that said, as always, a sincere thanks to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come all the way to the temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here. And there'll be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody!
오